What's up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Jacob and Me podcast show. I am the host, Richard Rodillo, joined by the man with the noggin right across from me, Jacob Bullard. If you are new to the Jacob and Me podcast show, it's where me and my best friend Jacob here talk about anything and everything on nerd culture, such as movies, video games, TV shows, and everything else we like to jerk off to. Sometimes we talk about sports in our undrafted opinion section, but we don't have one this week. And sometimes we take a stroll down Pennsylvania Avenue and talk about politics and history. We have history, but we don't have. We kind of had one, but we're gonna hold off on it, which is fine. But we will hold that off until next week. Regardless, though, welcome to the show. How you doing, Jacob?
I'm doing okay.
Okay. Are you all good from the last podcast because we just recorded one?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a little disappointed in some of the results that I saw, but all in all, it was okay.
Okay. Well, let's get started.
Bum 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 bum.
What shall we do first, sir?
We're gonna take a look at the new releases
All right.
for this week. Nothing really going on in the world of movies. We looked at what was coming out in theaters this week. No really big releases or perhaps considerable Oscar considerations.
Okay.
Coming out either. And no like big blockbusters. Like I know like Bumblebee's coming later in December and stuff like that. Nothing in television really that was of note. Most of that stuff is already going, or like Netflix and all that have released all their bigger shows already. So that leaves us with just video games this week. We do want to give a little bit of a PSA that Red Dead Online, the early access for Red Dead Online has started as of now. As long as you, I think all you had to do is pre-order the game to get access to it. That's what Anthony was saying anyway. I should have verified that, but I didn't.
I think I pre-ordered it like the day before it came out.
Okay. I think as long as you had the game pre-ordered, I think you will have access now to the Red Dead Online services, basically. So that's going to be a really big thing. Obviously, like GTA Online is a huge thing. So I know it's something that a lot of people are going to participate in. There was, I think, almost 20 million copies of Red Dead sold like in the month of November.
I think at one point they literally had a little bit over a quarter of everyone playing video games playing Red Dead Redemption, which is
Pretty
kind of
crazy.
insane.
I still haven't.
Yeah.
I haven't even touched that game in like a week.
Yeah, I've been playing Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
I've been trying to get grind through that.
So anyway, if you are interested, and I'm sure that a lot of you have played at least some of Red Dead Online, some of Red Dead Redemption 2, Red Dead Online is available if you so choose to play it. As far as things coming out later in the week, the first major release is the 3rd of December, which I believe is a Monday. Today's the 27th, yeah, so I think that's a Monday. The PlayStation Classic is being released. We are going to get into that in like our next segment a little bit, so I won't go too far in depth at the moment. But if that's something you're interested in, get that nostalgia train going. I'm not someone that was really that nostalgic, I guess, for the PS Classic, because I never owned a PlayStation, so like I don't have that. Like I didn't grow up with those games.
I had. Well, we'll talk about when we
Okay,
when
all
we
right,
get
fair
to
enough.
it, that about me, I guess.
Two more bigger releases. Just Cause 4 releases Tuesday, the 4th of December. Another one of these, like last week we had Darksiders, where it was like it feels like a completely like stealth release.
Yeah.
And this is
Small.
another one where Just Cause is a mildly successful franchise. It's kind of just like has its own corner of ridiculousness. It's like I'd say it's kind of like a cross between like Far Cry and Saints Row.
Okay. But it's like before them though, in a way. I think Just Cause has been around for a while.
Older than Far Cry?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
So I remember Far Cry 3 was with Vice, right? Or the one crazy guy on the island.
Mm-hmm.
Far Cry 2 was in the junior high, so it had been 8th grade.
Okay.
So Far Cry 1 came out not that long before, and I think Just Cause 2 was out by the time Far Cry 1 came out.
Wow. Okay. But I mean, stylistically and like gameplay wise,
What's my sister
kind of
called?
stick it like in the middle there. And then lastly, if you're interested in Gwent or you played any of the Gwent beta or like early access thing that they had going for a few months, Thronebreaker is being released, which is like a Gwent RPG kind of mix in the Witcher world. So if you are into that lore and into Gwent, I know that I personally spent probably just as much time playing Gwent as I was playing Witcher 3 as I did like actually playing Witcher 3.
Did you actually play the beta?
Yeah.
I think you actually own it too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Crazy.
I do.
I played Gwent for a little bit there.
I have like the actual actual decks.
Like right before I got off of the train of Witcher, the craziness train, I played not quite a bit, but I was trying to understand Gwent, and then played a couple missions after that, and I totally forgot playing the game, or I totally stopped playing that game. And I tried to get back into it, but yeah. Anyways, sorry.
Yeah. So that's it for our new releases this week. Really, just video games. I know that we'll be kind of having a run of movies here coming up in the next couple weeks, just with some of the bigger blockbusters that are going to hit before the end of the year, and then like a lot of movies that are going to be put forth for Oscar consideration in various categories. So there'll be a little bit more in weeks to come, but kind of a lightweight week this week.
Yeah. Let's get into video game Twitter.
Let's do it.
All right. Kind of a good transition in a way, because the first one I'm going to do is actually the PlayStation Classic. The review is up on IGN. I think IGN's pretty good at reviewing stuff, regardless of your opinion. And for some reason, it took me to something else right now. Not too good of a review, unfortunately, for them or for the rating. I got a 5.5 on IGN.
Yikes.
Yeah, if you want to get into the more specifics of the article, it's up, down, or it's down below in the description if you want to go directly to the article. But yeah, most of the gripes was the controller, the 20 games that you got with it was the unfortunate thing, and then also graphically some of those games don't really hold up like the 16-bit games or 8-bit games from the NES Classic and Super NES Classic. What you're going to pick up after this.
I am. I'm very excited about that.
But yeah, that is there for you guys. I think that's kind of an important thing to put out there. The next thing is kind of interesting because the Smash Brothers release is up pretty soon. And I think this past week, right after we recorded last week's episode, there was a leaks of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate for some reason. I don't know how they got it. This article is titled Nintendo Gets Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Pirates Banned from YouTube. So apparently people were putting YouTube videos of this up.
Dang.
They're very, very ballsy.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, so there was like 21 copyright strikes total with like videos, 200 videos with millions of views lost, I guess, for browser Zeki.
Okay.
For one of, there are several YouTubers that got banned. Apparently they somehow found out that it was a Mexican retailer that they got the copy from. So no specific.
Was it like
place.
a big chain or was it like a private, like a independent?
It just says Mexican retailer.
Okay.
So
retailer. So it's probably a bigger chain.
Yeah. So it could have been any of the
Yeah.
regular chains.
I just picture like Reggie, or like Miyamoto on the phone, like Taken style. It's like,
Yeah.
I have a particular set of skills.
Yeah.
We will find your stolen Super Smash Bros. Footage.
But yeah, it's kind of crazy to see how that game got leaked. But it's not the usual kind of game in the sense of it getting leaked, I guess. Because I feel like it right now is going to be the same when it gets released. Like the leaked game. Like there's not going to be like a huge update.
Oh.
Like usual games,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's not going to be something like where it's probably going to be broken or something like that. Or it's not going to be the actual... It's going to basically be the same as that game. I guess that's what in my head.
Well, I mean, this early, I would imagine that that's the case.
Yeah. I mean, maybe Nintendo has...
Because, like, the review
Weird.
copies have already shipped, so that game's done. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure that that's kind of what they got their hands on was sort of, like, that, like, version or like, update.
Yeah. Let's keep moving.
Yeah.
This one goes out to anyone that is looking to make video games, I guess. This might give you the inspiration to work on a video game on your own. or if you're already doing it, and to kind of give you maybe some inspiration to finish it. The title of this one is Indie Dev Releases Game After Documenting Its Development Every Week for 3 Years.
Dang.
So yeah, this game is called, what is it called again? Equinox? How do you pronounce that? That's right. It's like the italics.
Like Aquilinox, I guess.
Aquilinox?
Yeah.
Yes, so Carl Wibble developed this game starting in February 19th, 2016, and it didn't come out until November 23rd, 2018. Basically documents almost every week, like I said, of him working on it, and it actually has the starting video that you start with in the article. Very interesting. I didn't actually watch it because
So did this guy was he the only dude working on this game?
yeah, looks
Okay,
like it. That's what it
pretty
said. Well, I'm pretty sure maybe there's other people, but he goes through actually going through making the 3D models and everything, which is kind of interesting. So if there's anyone out there that wants or is looking to make a video game by themselves, this might be a good way to maybe get some structure or maybe get some ideas on how maybe he makes it some simple kind of things. I'm not too sure. And it probably has the program he uses too as well to create all this. But yeah, that's there for those kind of people, I guess. Let's keep moving. This past week was not historic, but it was an anniversary of a console that came out a very long time ago. It's the 20th anniversary. This one is titled "The Dreamcast Turns 20 Years Old Today in Japan." This isn't in Japan because it came out a year later. This article and the last article are from Kotaku. So yeah, it was released November 27th, 1998. But the U.S. release wasn't until September 9th, 1999. And that's actually one of the consoles I actually played a lot of, in a way.
Okay.
Because of James. James got it on release, my older brother. The only notable game that they talked about was Crazy Taxi that I really played. That were kind of the better games.
Crazy Taxi for me, I know that game existed on home consoles, but Crazy Taxi is something that is a console game for me.
And it was also
not a
arcade
console,
too.
an arcade game is what I meant to say. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where I played it.
But yeah, just kind of a note to a nod to that console. I still have it at my dad's house.
Nice.
And that was the first console I actually played extensively, where I sit down and actually try to play games that I had, in a way. It's where I became the true gamer that I am today.
The true gamer.
Reached
your final form.
Yeah. If you are already done with Red Dead Redemption and you're already done with Assassin's Creed and you're already done with all the games that have already come out this year for some reason, this week goes out to you guys. This one is 14 best modern Metrovanias out, I guess. So this is an IGN article and it goes through, like I said, 14 games you could probably spend a decent amount of time on with, and they're all on recent consoles or PC. Hollow Knight is one of them. But
I will get to that game eventually.
Yeah, so those are on there for people that have nothing to play, and those are probably some of the perfect games to play. Changing it up would be a good thing as well. But yeah, so that one's that one. This one's kind of cool. This one goes out to the Dark Souls fans. This one is titled Beautiful Dark Souls fan film tells the story of the chosen undead. So it's a fan-made film in the game, I guess.
Okay.
They use in-game stuff, and it kind of spoils Dark Souls, which is kind of interesting.
Action one.
So yeah, if you have already played the games, but you also appreciate Dark Souls, I would check this out. Those are in the comments, or is in the description down below. But yeah, this is a shout out to, it's the first game, and then there's also links to another fan made film of Dark Souls 2, I believe, and you can check that one out as well.
Okay, cool.
Next one is maybe a game announcement, but this one's titled "The Name Alien Blackout Has Been Trademarked by 20th Century Fox." So the next Alien game that could possibly be made could be Alien Blackout. It was trademarked in Europe, and this is intended for a video game. So that was all the article really said, but regardless. So Alien Blackout. I know you liked Alien vs. Predator.
Yeah.
very much.
The problem is that with like Colonial Marines and I guess what's the name of the one where like you're hiding from the alien?
Colonial Marines,
No, I don't think so.
Alien.
No. I don't remember now. There's one I know
It's like
Josh
a survival game,
yeah,
something like that.
kind of.
Well,
You have to, like,
I
sneak
heard-
around and hide from the alien.
I think recently they actually fixed Colonial Marines, but it wasn't actually the studio that made the game. It was like a modder, and they found like they needed to change like one thing in code, and it fixed the game.
Alien
which is-
Isolation
Isolation. Okay.
is what I was thinking of. So like I guess that one was got at least mediocre reviews.
Yeah.
But like Colonial Marines was a disaster.
Yeah, that was DOA right there for sure.
And even as much as I enjoyed AVP, I don't know that was necessarily like a well-received video game either. But like I enjoyed playing it.
I did too.
So it's been a while since there's been like a great Alien game. So I mean, hopefully they kind of tread carefully here. I think it like a lot of people like this sort of announcement would have got me excited like 5 to 6 years ago. Right now I'm just like probably gonna be trash. So like hopefully that this turns out to be a good game that's fun to play. 'Cause like I really like the Alien franchise. But I've been let down by the last few experiences that I've had.
That was announced, or that was tweeted out 3 days ago. This one, the next two are from 2 days ago, and then I have one more after that. Black Ops 4 Auto Mantle Toggle makes a difference. So this is for your FPS Black Ops 4 fans. Shout out to you guys.
Sweat.
They've apparently fixed something with a toggle. It's from jumping onto like or jumping over stuff. Apparently you were not able to shoot, but now you're able to do that now. If that makes any sense.
So you can shoot while you're jumping over something?
Yeah, you have to like press a button twice or something like that.
Okay.
So you have the option to do that. So apparently people were complaining about that. So your Black Ops 4 fans, we got some news for you guys, and hopefully you enjoy that.
It's really crazy to me how I was actually enjoying playing specifically Blackout, and then like have not even looked back to that game since like with Assassin's Creed and
Well, yeah, we just have too much to play.
Red Dead. Like haven't even like thought about playing it,
Mm.
and I haven't nor have I seen anyone on my friends list playing it.
Yeah.
So kind of crazy how it just like poof gone.
All right. Another game you might want to play maybe when you're done. This is a funny game about a funny game about being a frog detective. Yeah. So the actual title of this game, it's a Kotaku article. The article or the actual title of the game is The Haunted Island, a Frog Detective Game. I believe that's what it's called. And I heard it's a really silly game. There's a little similarities, like they're more like dad jokes, but similarities to the humor of The Stick of Truth, the South Park game. So if it has those kind of comparisons of like being that funny, maybe it's a game for you guys. But yeah, it's a silly little article for a silly little game.
Okay.
So shouts outs to Frog Detective.
Frog Detective.
Last one is for you ultra nerds out there.
Uh-oh.
Amazon Japan is selling a box with 63 Amiibos in it.
Oh, I saw this.
The price point actually hasn't been announced yet. Still, from Kotaku,
It
this
would
one's
have to be at least if it's anything less than $600, I'd be triggered.
oh okay. Well, regardless, you get 63 Amiibos, I believe, and yeah, it's going to be in the hundreds for sure. Obviously,
It had better be.
but regardless, you get all the Amiibos for all the characters in the game. Apparently.
I guess that this means that they're like opening up production for some of these again, because like that was the biggest problem, was that the reason why if you're getting 63, like it had better be like at least 550 to 600, because most of us were forced to buy them individually. There was the occasional 2-pack, and the retro like Duck Hunt, Game & Watch, and Rob all came in one thing. That was a 3-pack. But for the most part, the rest of us were forced to buy them single, well, for like $13 to like $15, 13, 15, 18 sometimes dollars. And then like resale was like probably 20 to 30 depending on which one. Some of them got like ridiculous. Like I know the Ocarina of Time one like got up to like $100 at one point.
Yeah.
So like if it's anything less than like $600, then all of us got ripped off.
Yeah, so these are also what's it called? These are all just specific Smash Brother Amiibos. And it also comes with a poster. So if you wanted a poster, you get a poster in this.
Is it like the Smash poster?
It's like I'm not too sure.
Or
It
an
looks like a
Amiibo
map.
poster?
Looks like just that. That's a poster you get.
Yeah.
But you get this nice box. That'd be nice. Maybe it's just a better way to display them. Maybe you can open it up and somehow hang it and have them all like
Yeah,
the
maybe.
little like foam spots. I guess I don't know how they're gonna be in the box. I would like to see a picture of that.
If you have always been, well, obviously it's going to be like a huge investment to buy all these. Like I'm assuming that it'll be like hundreds of dollars. So I'm sure it'll be like a really big investment for someone. But like if you've always been interested, I think that these are some of the best, like for the price, they're some of the best little figures you can get. They're pretty well detailed. Nintendo's got a lot better as far as like the design of the pose and stuff like that. So that we talked about this, I think, a couple weeks ago. So that I guess I can pull one. There's one right here. So like Charizard, for example, they have like little plastic pieces that hold up certain parts because they weren't very
Stable.
right. Like they didn't choose the poses very well. Like I don't know, why can't they just put his foot down on the ground? Like you don't need this thing.
He's smashing.
Anyway, so like I really like the Amiibo figures. I've tried as hard as I can to collect all of them, but like some of them, literally there'd be like GameStops around here that got like 2, and
Yeah.
like that was it.
And you're only allowed to buy one.
Right. So.
Well, I mean, if you wanted to make money, but there's different methods of getting around
And
that.
sometimes you get completely screwed where, it's like GameStop or Target gets, say, 4 Shulk Amiibos and the employees buy all 4 of them. You're just like, well, that was fun. Kind of the same thing that happened with you remember the Nuka-Cola bottles they put out?
Yeah.
And like the blue soda, like the Jones soda, and like there were a whole bunch of Targets that like never got, none of them were ever available to the public because the employees just bought them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dust. But yeah. Yeah, and if you haven't bought a single one, maybe that's your way in.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because some of those, I mean, Kirby, getting like a good Little Mac, like some of those were at one point very, very expensive and very hard to find. So like if you get a whole package that has all of them here, it's definitely a lot easier than trying to piecemeal a collection together.
And also, who knows the price after retail for one of these? Like maybe if you got your hand on 2 of them, you can sell the other one for maybe even double what you paid for it because someone just wants them all.
Yeah, if you got a spare $1,000 sitting around.
Yeah, basically. But who knows? But that one's only in Amazon Japan, so I'm pretty sure they'll probably do a U.S. release eventually. So maybe not this year, but probably maybe mid next year they might do one for America.
I wouldn't be surprised if they waited until they had like all the Smash characters, because like they're like I think there are 3 Amiibo that come out the day that Smash comes out, and then there's gonna be like I know they're putting out Ice Climbers and Ridley and Daisy and stuff like that. So there'll be more coming.
Or maybe
Ice Climbers might actually be one of the ones that comes out this week.
maybe you get all of them in that, and you don't have to wait too. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, I guess it's possible, but I don't know that I would like that too much. But sure.
Okay. Well, regardless, let us know in the comments down below if you are going to buy that. Because if you do, send us pictures. Because that'd be sick.
I'll be jealous.
Just don't send us a dick pic.
It's true.
All right. What is next?
We went to the movies last night.
Ooh, movies.
And we are going to review what we saw.
A-list.
AMC A-list, Hyperpipe.
Yes. Last night, I texted you while I was working. I was like, yo, do you want to go to the movies after I get off work? And you're like, you want to go see Overlord? And I was like, yeah. And then you're like, wait. This sounds like a bad decision. And let's go see Green Book. And I was like,
I don't know. I've heard good things about Overlord.
I don't care what you heard. Anthony's word does not carry very much. So, regardless, we went to go see Green Book last night. The most likely Oscar-nominated movie in some categories, probably. Starring, what are their names? I'm sorry, I already forgot.
So it was Viggo Mortensen.
Who's the lead?
Tony Vallelonga. I think I said that right.
Okay.
Mahershala Ali, who plays Dr. something or other.
Shirley.
Dr. Shirley, that's right. And then Linda Cardellini, who plays Tony's wife, who like stays back in New York.
Margaret?
Dolores.
Sorry. Yes. Those were like the 3 main actors. There was a couple other actors around that, but they were the 3 main guys that led the chart, or the 2 of them, obviously, on the trip. This movie is about a Italian security guard, kind of in a way, a people person.
Yeah, he called it
Public relations.
Yeah.
Public relations, where he basically was the security.
He's basically like an enforcer.
Yeah, for a nightclub called the Copacabana.
Mm-hmm.
And basically the club was shut down for like 2 months, and he had needed to find work. It showed you them trying to find work for him, and then eventually he gets this offer from Dr. Shirley to be his bodyguard, because Shirley is going on tour, and he's going on tour in the South. And at the time, it was very dangerous at times for certain situations, like the ones he got into, to survive, basically.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the way it was, I guess, unfortunately. But yeah, it starts off with him, or what's it called, Tony putting like a deal out. It's like, no, I'm gonna do this, like this is how it's gonna be. And basically was like, it didn't seem like it was gonna happen, but obviously it was gonna happen because of the movie. We seen the trailers, but regardless, happened. They come together. They go with the other two, the bassist and the cello player, and then they start their little journey. Unfortunately, they were not, their expectations about Pittsburgh with the Pittsburgh didn't meet their expectations, unfortunately. But yeah, they go through that, and they go through a really extraordinary journey, for sure. They go to jail one point. What's it called? Dr. Shirley gets drunk in a bar, and Tony has to save him. Tony saves him again because of Dr. Shirley's, what would you call it, nights.
Yeah, I guess. So, like, he got... Oh, that was when they got... no, that wasn't when they got arrested. Never mind. He
almost got arrested.
Yeah.
But basically was caught in the shower at a YMCA with another man, and then Tony gets him out of that situation. But also there's like a lot of, they also learn from each other from certain things. Like Tony shows them like, yo, dude, this is KFC, dog. This is the best. Oh, and then music too as well. And then also Dr. Shirley teaches him how to write letters to his wife, which are very beautiful. And you find out at the end there, like, about her thanking him about helping him write the letters.
Right, yeah.
And also just, I guess, the struggle of Dr. Shirley that Tony finds out, you know, that very, not climactic scene, but a very dramatic scene where in the rain, and he talks about, like, I'm not black enough for black people, and I'm not white enough for white people, and like, what am I? I forgot the technical line, but then that was like kind of like a dramatic moment.
I think it was the other way around. I think it was white. If I'm not white enough, I'm not black enough, I'm not man enough.
Yeah. So something like that.
Then what am I?
So like that was like a very dramatic scene. A lot of comedic moments in this movie that weren't like comedic moments at all. Oh, I mean, like, they were probably not, how do I say,
I would describe it as like the humor is not very subtle, but like, I mean, somewhat subtle.
Yeah, in the writing it was purposeful, but like in the actual moment,
mm-hmm.
like you probably like, oh, Tony didn't think it was as funny, or Shirley does, but like we found it very appealing.
Yeah.
To laughter. But yeah, it's a very great performance by the what's his name, Viggo Mortensen. Very good performance by him. And like we talked about earlier, he's a little bit over the age of Tony's actual age. I think he was like probably like 20 years older than what Tony was, but that was fine. He made up for it for his performance. Honestly, that was he had the better performance out of everyone, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Not to say anything from what's his name, Mahershala Ali. I thought he had a great performance too, but not as good as
Viggo
Mortensen for me.
Okay. Yeah, I think this movie, it's probably my favorite movie that I've seen this year. I think it's guaranteed to get nominated. I think without even seeing, if I was to not see another movie this year, I'd probably guess that it's going to win Best Picture. It like we were talking about, the humor in it, like if you're paying attention, is very subtle. It addresses kind of the assumption, just because of like Dr. Shirley's, I guess, circumstances, being like living in the North his whole life. Like he lives above Carnegie Hall in New York. and then Viggo Mortensen's character Tony like being like a very stereotypical like Italian from New York at that time. So kind of like the contrast of like him being like Tony being the stereotypical person that he is, and then Dr. Shirley being like completely separated from like what Tony thinks of as like his culture, sort of thing like that. Like you see it even with just simple things like when they stop at KFC and like that whole conversation, everything that goes down there. And then like later at the dinner that they go to, like they like, oh, like we asked our servants what we should serve Dr. Shirley, and it was like, oh, fried chicken or whatever. And they like looked at each other.
Yeah.
So there's those sorts of things. It tells a pretty good story, just to like the development of like both of those characters along like their journey through like you could see the progression as far as like how they were being treated, because their journey for the tour takes them like progressively south. And so like you can see how it changes, like start like when they stop in Pittsburgh, and then like they're in Ohio and Kentucky and like how like the treatment gets worse, and then like they get pulled over for like Dr. Shirley being out at past sundown and stuff like that,
and then Tony punches the cop,
right?
And then Dr. Shirley calls Robert Kennedy to get him out of the situation, which was funny because that scene.
Spoiler alert, I guess. For this
I don't care. When you see him, he's like, "Who'd you call?" And then they find out in the car, and he's like, "Call the president's brother. He's attorney general. He should do this time." So I was like,
but I thought it told a really good story, with a lot of just like relevancy to today, to like modern times. It's something that a lot of people that can relate to. There's humor in it for everyone. Just kind of not only the kind of ridiculousness of their situation sometimes, but like I said, like the contrast between just like the two of them, and then like their expectations of each other, brings forth a lot of like humorous moments that aren't necessarily like it's not supposed to be like overtly like comedic, but just like it is just because of like the situation that they're in.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed this movie.
Yeah, I have a lot of parallel feelings to watching this and Trains, Planes, and Automobiles.
Okay.
With John Candy and Steve Martin, that just two people from the opposite worlds kind of like come together, and then they go on this like long journey, and at the end they kind of both get vulnerable, and they kind of get to know each other, and they like have a like life lessons out of this as well, to like not judge a book by its cover, which is like I think like the moral of the story kind of, or like the biggest message of all this is, because you saw Tony and how he was with African Americans coming in his house towards the end, like he was like welcoming him Dr. Shirley and to kind of just not, regardless of like obviously what Dr. King's like said, I'd rather be judged by my my character than the color of my skin.
Yeah, the content of your character.
So like that was kind of like I think the biggest message, and I think hopefully people will take away from this.
Yeah, I agree. I think it does a really good job of kind of conveying that, and conveying like and showing the progression of like both of them throughout the movie, just based on like their experiences with each other, the situations they were in, and like how they learned from them. So yeah, I think, and like at this point, without having seen really anything else that's probably going to be up for Best Picture, I hope that this movie wins.
Yeah, I think it will. I think the only movie what we haven't seen yet, but that'll probably give it competition, is Vice for me. Just because the nature of that movie, but we'll see once that movie comes out. But yeah, definitely recommend it. It's a small film. There wasn't that many people in the theater, and it just came out this week too. Which was
it's a week old now at this point.
I think when we went to go look at our seats to pick our seats, there was only like 2 people that reserved, and then us, and then there was maybe another less than a handful of people that was actually in the theater. Even though those people that took our seats which is fine. There was other seats to sit in too, but it's what it was.
I think they were just like in the wrong row.
Bro, they were.
But they were like straight up in our seats.
Yeah. But it was fine. We sat like 2 seats away from them. It was fine. I was gonna say, yo, you're in our seats, but we're gonna sit over here though. That's
just
what.
Make them aware. Make them feel bad.
Yeah, I was gonna do that,
Yeah.
but I'm not that much of a dick, unfortunately. But anyways, yes, we definitely recommend it. It's a feel good story, honestly. I think a lot.
Especially with like the holiday ending at the end of it.
Yeah, definitely a movie. It's also appropriate too. I mean, there's cursing in it, but like, this is a movie I would very much.
Was this even rated R? I don't think it was. I can't think of anything.
PG-13 probably at most.
Trying to think of how many F words were in it if it was because if it's more than one, it's rated R.
Yeah, I'll double check it if you want to. But yeah, no, it's a movie I would watch with my nephews because I think it's a good lesson, or my nieces, too, just to sit down and watch it. And I can't wait for my parents to watch this movie too because they like good movies.
Green Book. It's rated PG-13, so
Yeah,
there must have only been one F word.
Yeah. Maybe it was at the end where it says, Tony, do you want me to play the show? And he's like, let's get the F out of here. That's probably what it was. But regardless, what do we have next?
So our, I guess, final segment of this show is going to be This Week in History.
But before we do that, ladies and gentlemen, go ahead and let us know in the comments down below if you watched the Green Book and if you enjoyed it. Let us know your favorite scene. And, yeah, let us know also if you how many Oscars you think it's going to win. Let us get into history, sir.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. What's the days of history this week?
So this is going to be running from November 29th through December 5th. Hard to believe that, like, we've already made it. Like, this year's basically over.
Yes.
And it just kind of flew by. Just like that. I guess that's how it always goes. So I have a pretty healthy list of things that happened this week in history. So are you ready? We have a pretty wide variety of kind of genres and topics that are in here, too. So November 29th, 1972. Little video game, which I don't think I've ever put a video game in on This Week in History, but a little video game called Pong was released.
Oh.
Kind of like it was definitely the first commercially successful
Yeah,
video
I would say
game.
first commercially successful.
It definitely was not the first video game, but one that I imagine most people have played. Well, now that I think about that, I bet there's a lot of young people that haven't played Pong.
Yeah, now it is for sure. Yeah, I remember my dad talking about this and playing it he was like, yeah, I remember playing Pong when I was like your age. And I was like, no one cares, Dad. But no, yeah, that's how old Pong is. I think the first was Space Invade, the game they made at like a college lab basically. It was like a Space Invaders ish.
But it's missile defense, isn't it?
Yeah, where you're the little triangle and then
that's Asteroid.
there you go.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was
There's a gymnastics game that was on the computer where you had to like hit two buttons to like make your dude run.
Yeah.
There's like one of those. There's like obviously they were very like I guess primitive is kind of the right word for it, especially compared to the way games are now.
Well, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, there's just limitations, unfortunately.
Yeah, technological limitations. November 30th. Probably one of the most events that I've had for a single day that we've been doing this. November 30th, 1835, Samuel Langhorne Clemens is born. But you probably know him better as Mark Twain.
Oh, okay.
Bum, bum, bum. Plot twist. So Mark Twain was born on this day, or on November 30th, 1835. Obviously famous for many novels, but Huck Finn and Tom Sawyer being probably the two big ones.
Yes.
That and isn't he the one where it's like reports of my death are greatly there was like a newspaper like front page thing that like Mark Twain had died, and then he held a press conference and was like, reports of my death are greatly exaggerated or whatever. I'm pretty sure that's him. Also
OG of that.
Yeah. Also November 30th, 1874, another big birthday, this one being for Winston Churchill. He was Prime Minister of Great Britain through World War II, following up Neville Chamberlain. And he served as Prime Minister again in the 50s, I believe, after Queen Elizabeth took the throne. So he served Prime Minister twice. Probably one of the top 5 most important people of the 20th century.
Yes.
I would say.
Half American, to know.
Yes.
Yeah, a guy that went through extraordinary struggles. Yeah, because he was just as vulnerable or as just in danger as any other British citizen at the time.
Yeah.
Just getting bombed. Obviously he had a little bit more protection, but still, anything could have fell and he probably could have perished. But yeah, I'm not too sure if that's, remember the story or in the movie, what was the movie called?
Darkest Hour.
Darkest Hour, where he goes into the tube
Mm-hmm.
and talks. I don't know if that was fictional or not. I think that was.
It's kind of something that the like Hollywood depictions of him would make me believe like kind of actually happened.
Okay, but regardless, like stuff like
just
that,
how they portray his character, like it seems like something he would do.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, a very extraordinary man.
Yeah, but that's also a really good movie if you're interested. Just kind of like a Spark Notes version of what Churchill did. At least part of what Churchill did during World War II. The Darkest Hour. Gary Oldman won Best Actor for his portrayal of Churchill. So
also another good way to see him in his later years is in the Queen Elizabeth, or what was it called? Or the Netflix series.
That's The Crown.
Oh, The Crown.
That's John Lithgow as Winston Churchill.
Yeah. So it's
also a very good portrayal as well.
Yes.
And yet another birthday. We got all kinds of birthdays on this day. November 30th. This is more of kind of like a pop culture birthday. 1929. Dick Clark was born. He obviously kind of rose to fame as the host of American Bandstand way back in the day in like the 50s and 60s. American Bandstand was kind of like that and like the Ed Sullivan Show, I'd say, were like the big platforms for like up and coming bands and singers and such.
Like the MTV of that time.
Kind of, yeah.
In a way. Well, we don't really have MTV. It's not really that anymore or what it used to be, but yeah.
So like he was really famous for being the host of American Bandstand. He kind of pivoted into like the game show world. With what was originally the $10,000 pyramid and then became $100,000 pyramid, which was like one of the biggest game shows. I remember like I used to watch episodes of that all the time on GSN, the game show network, back when they had like it was like that and Match Game and all sorts of like old game shows like that that I used to watch all the time. So I'm probably most familiar with him there. And then of course most people are going to be familiar with Dick Clark from New Year's Rockin' Eve. So like the Ryan Seacrest has taken over now since Dick Clark passed away, but for like many years he was responsible for like putting on the New Year's, like with the ball drop in New York and all that.
That was Dick Van Dyke.
No, Dick Van Dyke is totally different. Isn't Dick Van Dyke the dude from The Sound of Music?
I know, but is it? I thought it was like So it's Dick Clark Rockin' Eve New Year's show or something like that, right? That's what they call it? Okay.
New Year's Rockin' Eve.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I think he also, if I remember correctly, I didn't put this one down, but he was also the host for never mind. That's Bob Eubanks, I think. Wait,
okay.
Is it? I was thinking who used to do the Rose Parade, the like main Rose Parade announcer?
Oh, I have no
there was like the same two people that like I think it was on Channel 4, like they did the commentary for the Rose Parade like every year for like a long time.
No, I never watched the Rose Parade on TV because I was always actually there. So.
Oh well then. Okay.
Well, no, because there was no way to record it back in the day, really. I mean, unless you have VHS. So, like my dad never did that. So.
Okay. Well then. Another birthday number 4. Wait, I actually have 5 birthdays in this day. Number 4, November 30th, 1937. We were just talking about a franchise of this person's. Ridley Scott is born.
Ridley Scott was born in 1937?
Yeah, that dude's old.
Oh my god.
So he's obviously probably most famous for the Alien franchise.
He's still alive?
Yeah. Did I just blow your mind?
Yeah.
He won Best Picture in 2000 for The Gladiator. He was the director of The Gladiator. And obviously he's had his hands in a huge number of other significant projects.
Oh, did he do the recent Alien movie too? Alien Covenant?
Yes.
That was him?
Mm-hmm. And he did Prometheus.
What else? He did something else that was pretty... It wasn't received like with the Academy really well, but it was other movies.
I'm gonna look up his like filmography really quick.
There's something in there that I'm not remembering.
He's done like he did Blade Runner.
Blade Runner. There we go.
He won the Best Picture for
Yeah, 'cause he did the recent one, too.
Gladiator. I think he was like a producer on that one.
Okay, never mind.
He was involved, but I don't think he. Television projects, films. Thelma and Louise is a Ridley Scott film. I don't know why this is not giving me like just a nice list. He did Hannibal with Anthony Hopkins.
Okay.
Black Hawk Down.
Oh, that was him.
Matchstick Men. Kingdom of Heaven. Recent and upcoming films. What do we got here? American Gangster, Body of Lies. Robin Hood. That must have
American
been an older
Gangster. That was with Denzel Washington and Russell Crowe, right?
Yes. More sequels to Alien. He did Prometheus. Brave New World. Anyway, so like he's had his fingers in quite a number of projects over the years. He's probably one of the most I don't know. He will go down as one of the greatest directors like that there has ever been. But I feel like he keeps getting himself into projects that are like tarnishing that reputation a little bit.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
So like that sort of thing. So but obviously like one of the most influential members of like the Hollywood elite that there's been in like especially coming up through like the 70s, like with what he did with Alien and stuff like that, and then probably honestly kind of culminating with Gladiator. Not that he hasn't done good things since then, but like Gladiator was kind of like the peak, probably.
Yeah.
Final birthday on November 30th, 1982. Oh, this is not a birthday. Oh yeah. Oh, I skipped one. There was another birthday. 1962. Last birthday. Bo Jackson. Putting, I guess, our fingers in all of our little topics that we talk about. I don't really have sports people on here too often either. But Bo Jackson is the only person to ever be on an all-star team in like 2 major professional sports. So obviously played both in the NFL and the Kansas and in MLB for the Kansas City Royals. Something that would never ever be allowed to happen today. But he was someone that like excelled in both, which was pretty impressive.
Very difficult these days because of the money invested into athletes.
Yeah, I mean they don't even let you play. I mean when we were in high school, like our baseball coach didn't let us play more than one sport, like let alone playing that at a professional level.
Well, yeah. Well, I would think that was just because of the coach you had. Because there was definitely good football players that played baseball as well, like Chris Peel.
Sean Peel.
Or Sean Peel? Okay, whatever. But regardless, yeah, that's what I meant. Well, I think it's also they want to focus, I guess, maybe he just wants you to focus on baseball.
I know, but I don't really think that it's that uncommon of a thing to, like, even at that age to be forced to kind of into one sport if you're going to take it seriously.
I guess, but, I mean, you have the guy from Oklahoma that got drafted by the A's and is playing football for Oklahoma. He's a multi-sport kind of guy.
Yeah, I'm not saying that. Yeah, I know.
I just think, well, baseball and football are, like, the bigger of the two getting paid, like, in a way, I guess.
Baseball for sure. I don't know about the NFL.
Well, I meant more than basketball, though. Like the average basketball player?
I don't know. I think what drives the average down is because there's more NFL players.
Yeah. Okay, whatever. But, yeah. But Bo Jackson, definitely an influential player. He kind of was before Jordan, I think, actually. Like shoe deals. Like he was like the guy that, like, be like Bo.
It would have been like maybe just before.
Yeah.
Because he would have been in his prime like late 80s. And then Jordan was winning all those titles with the Bulls in like late 80s, early 90s, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
But like
so
shoe
around
deals,
the same time, yeah.
The shoe deal, like he was like one of the first kind of guys. And then Nike got both him and Jordan. But yeah.
20 years later, November 30th, 1982, moving to another topic that we don't hit a whole lot in This Week in History. Michael Jackson's Thriller album was released November 30th, 1982, and it is the best-selling album of all time.
Yes. Very hyped.
Do you even like Michael Jackson's music?
Not really.
Dust! All right.
I can appreciate it, but I'm not really into him as much, I guess. I can't really appreciate single artists, I guess. Does that make any sense?
Nope, but okay. November 30th, 1998. Exxon, I don't know why I said Exxon and Mobil Oil merged to create what was at the time the world's largest company, worth $73.7 billion. And now today, obviously, they're known as ExxonMobil. It's one kind of big conglomerate that owns a huge market share of the oil production in the United States.
I just really consider them just mobile one, or just mobile.
Just mobile.
Yeah, when I see them.
Yeah, because you don't see. Well, I think it's just because like we're in California. If you go to other parts of the country, like those gas stations say Exxon.
Yeah, but still, I'm just like.
It's kind of a regional thing. Yeah. So that was 20 years ago today. That takes us finally to December 1st. There were quite a lot of things that I had there in the tail end of November. December 1st, 1935, Woody Allen is born. Probably one of the most famous actors, I would say. Actor and like eventually producer in Hollywood, like young Hollywood at the time. Very influential to kind of, I would probably not only was he part of kind of that golden generation of people that we think of, but like also influenced very heavily like the next group of people that came after him.
This is also James' birthday, I believe. December 1st.
Okay.
Sorry.
Nice. Shout out to James.
Shout out to James.
December 1st, 1940. Another kind of pioneer. Pioneer is probably the right word for this one. Richard Pryor was born on this day in 1940. One of the most influential stand-up comics of all time, for sure. Just like with his style and his, for the time, I would say his like boldness, like the sort of topics that he was willing to cover, I think also kind of set him aside from other people.
And it influenced a lot of younger African American comedians as well, like Eddie Murphy, Chris Rock, and I'm blanking on the other guy I was thinking of right now that I'm not thinking. But yeah, definitely. And then just people in general. Chappelle, there we go, Dave Chappelle. But yeah, I mean, it's weird to see how far his career actually expanded. And to see the other comedians that he worked with, like Joe Rogan remembers like watching him when he was a kid and then working in the same clubs as him, like in his beginning of his career, which is kind of cool.
Yeah,
and talk about like even though the tail end of his career was not the best, obviously, because it's just a deterioration of him. But yeah, one of my like favorite comedians to listen to in general. I remember we wanted to go see Joe Rogan and we listened to Richard Pryor on the way up, and you were laughing at some of those jokes, even though they're definitely outdated, but they can get you.
He was definitely like a product of the times.
Yeah.
Like,
but definitely a very bold comedian. And was somewhat necessary. I mean, I don't think he would survive with those kind of jokes these days.
Yeah.
But there's some people that do.
But he broke down a lot of walls, just like in his like boldness and brazenness, like in his stand up.
Yeah, the next kind of guy I could think of that's like that kind of has his very bold and vulgar just language is Joey Diaz, who's very funny. This is like a latest special, Degenerate. Like, it has a very good not complete parallels, but they're just as funny in my eyes.
Okay. Yeah. Another birthday on December 1st, 1945. Bette Midler is born. One of the, again, with, I guess, like the word influential keeps coming up, but like one of the most probably important and significant major singers to like come out of this time period.
What year?
She was born in 1945.
Okay.
So like coming like in like the mid to late 60s, like when she really came to prominence, and which was like the right time for like her style of music. So obviously like very important. Female, one of the like probably greatest female singers that there ever has been. Completely pivoting topics. December 1st, still 1955, 10 years later, was the day that Rosa Parks refused to go sit in the back of the bus at a bus stop in Montgomery, Alabama. A few days later, obviously it was like that was against the law for her not to move. Like where she was seated, it was against the law for her to be there. But she refused to move. It ended up sparking like a bus boycott, like a few days later, and was like really one of the like major moments in like the civil rights movement, I would say.
Yeah, she wasn't the first person to do this, I believe. I forgot the other lady's name that did this not too long ago, and then Rosa Parks, I think, was maybe I'm not too sure. It's always changes for some reason. But she passed away not too long ago as well. But yeah, very historic kind of stand towards actual civil rights issues.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, very brave of her to do that as well.
December 2nd, 1804. Napoleon crowns himself Emperor of France in Notre Dame Cathedral, which is in Paris. A place that I was able to visit, I guess, a couple years ago now. Went on to define probably at least the next, 10 years or so of European history, really, up until, Waterloo. So, probably one of the biggest, most significant moments of the 19th century is, Napoleon coming to power in France.
Yes. Nationalism.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Napoleon, I believe, was the first person to ever combined the professional military and conscripts together and basically take over Europe, which was crazy.
Yeah.
And then a lot of the royal families in Europe are very afraid of those kind of ideas. But yeah, it's kind of why Napoleon was so successful.
December 2nd, 1823, the Monroe Doctrine was officially introduced, obviously created by, created by the president at the time, James Monroe, who kind of gave his namesake to this. And the Monroe Doctrine basically states that the West is no longer to be colonized. So North and South America have demonstrated their ability to govern themselves, basically. So it was the United States taking a stand against European colonialism in what was still kind of the New World. So kind of a big policy to take, especially for what it was still barely 10 years removed from Britain spanking us in the War of 1812. So bold move, Cotton.
Yeah, I think the reason why we moved west and why obviously we gained land, but it's also just to prevent Europe, because not all people understand. Obviously today, Europe, it's they're friends, but Europe at the time, yo, those are gangsters, dog. You don't want to mess with Europe, and that's why we definitely moved across the country, and we've expanded, and kicked out the French, kicked out the Spanish, obviously kicked out the English.
Paid off the French.
Well, but yeah, but still,
but this was I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hit the mic there. This was kind of America was declaring this policy, but it was also to help and alongside other countries in the New World. I mean, in Central and South America, and obviously Mexico, not terribly long after this, a couple decades, got its independence from France. So this was kind of a public declaration that Europe's practices were not going to be tolerated any longer in the New World. Yeah.
And also that they were not going to have any kind of they're still present in some of the islands, but they weren't going to be as dominant as they were.
Yeah.
Kind of changing of guard as well. But not completely yet.
Yeah, not yet. But yeah. Kind of when you could see it kind of tilting that way a little bit.
It was a step.
Yeah.
It was a step.
I lost my spot here. December 2nd, 2001. So a good almost couple hundred years later. One of the more, is tragic the right word? I'm not sure. I guess just sad stories kind of came to an end a little bit with Enron filing for bankruptcy. So obviously Enron was caught taking money from probably millions of people, if not hundreds of thousands of people that lost their life savings because of what Enron was doing. like kind of wasting their money away, and then when Enron got caught and like had to like pay everything back, the company went bankrupt, and so December 2nd, 2001, they declared bankruptcy. They fired for chapter, is it chapter 10 or chapter 11 or whatever, title 11, I forget what it's called, for like corporate bankruptcy or whatever. So
Yeah, I think they made a movie about this or some kind of weird series.
there's a movie.
Yeah, I forgot who's in it.
It was someone, I want to say it was someone mildly famous, like Matt Damon or something like that.
Oh no. No, it was like an employee that just got hired at Enron or something like that, and then it just talks about like being in Enron itself and then watching everything implode. I think, or maybe this might be a different movie, but or
no,
different.
I think that's right.
It's the one. Have you remember watched Leverage?
Mm-hmm.
The
I
guy
watched
that
literally that whole show. Timothy Hutton is the like main dude.
Not Timothy Hutton. It's the guy that like fights everyone for them.
Oh,
the muscle.
Christian. Is it Christian? I'm not sure. I have it right here, I think. Oh, maybe I do not. Wait, are these
Maybe it's a
actual-
different movie.
I know what you're talking about here. I'll just look up Leverage.
It wasn't a very popular or well received, I think.
We actually
adaptation
watched
of
that
it.
movie in school as like to learn about. Apparently, it's like somewhat accurate. And
Yeah,
we
yeah.
actually watched that movie in school to like learn what happened. Christian Kane
Yeah.
is the guy.
There you go.
Oh, Timothy Hutton's actually in that movie. Oh, never mind.
That's
I
Leverage?
forgot that I was looking at Leverage for a second. I was like, oh, Timothy Hutton was in Enron as well. Yeah. Let me see if I can find the name of that movie real quick.
But yeah, I remember watching that in high school. And then watching everything implode.
Filmography. Probably wouldn't have been too long after
I think it was when we were in high school, right before high school came out.
film. I don't know.
Maybe it was like TV. I think it was a TV miniseries or something like that, or a mini
Oh, okay.
the TV movie.
I'm
But
not-
regardless,
I'm not seeing anything.
we'll
here.
we'll find it or something like that, or later on. But I know he was the lead in that for sure.
Let me go back to my list here. Only a couple days left, I think. We have the 3rd, 4th, and 5th coming up. So December 3rd, 1755. I actually had to look this dude up because I actually did not know who he was. A man named Gilbert Stuart was born on this day, December 3rd, 1755. You probably don't know that name, but Gilbert Stuart was a very famous portrait artist. And he painted the portraits for the first 6 presidents of the United States, as well as many other prominent figures in world history at that time. I think I saw Napoleon's brother was on there. A lot of people from the American Revolution, a lot of royals from
Joseph.
Europe. I don't remember his name, but something like that, yeah. So the portrait of George Washington that's on the $1 bill, that's his painting.
Okay.
So like that's where like probably most of you will know. They've obviously changed the pictures on like the bigger bills now, but the $1 bill's been the same for a while. So like he was responsible. There are like many famous portraits of Washington. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, a lot of them might even be gone just because of the British burning down the White House.
Yeah, I was gonna say, 'cause didn't Jefferson's wife save some portrait of Washington? I think.
Oh, so maybe that one is one of them that was saved. But anyway, he was a very prominent portrait artist at the time, so I thought he was worthy of being included in this week. December 3rd, 1818, the state of Illinois becomes the 21st state in the Union.
Sweet home Chicago. Sorry.
Yes, this is true. So I guess we've had seems like I guess this time of year was big for like adding states.
Yeah,
It
from
seems like with the last couple of months we've had a whole bunch of states.
now up until like the beginning of October, I believe.
Yeah.
So when it started.
And December 3rd, 1989, President at the time, George H.W. Bush and Mikhail Gorbachev announced the official end to the Cold War in like a joint press conference thingamabob.
And then the Soviet Union soon after
Within like 2 years, I think.
collapsed.
Yeah, collapsed. December 4th, 1892, I don't really know that this person's birthday is worth celebrating, but he is a significant person in world history. Francisco Franco was born on this day
The
in 1892.
Spanish.
Right. He came to power as like the leader of the Communist Party in Spain in the Spanish Civil War, which was in the mid to late mid 30s, really, I guess. Kind of like a proxy war-ish for World War II, with like the Nazis helping him out at the time, and then like Britain and France trying to help the
Stalin
the-
or the Russians
Spanish
helped
side.
out too as well, but I
Yeah.
forgot which side.
Yeah.
There's so many different factions. It was ridiculous,
Yeah.
honestly, in that war specifically. Between like the actual like Spanish like people, there was probably like 6 different factions with 3 operating on one and 3 operating on the other. But they some of the weird triangle combination didn't really agree on certain things.
Yeah.
And it was like kind of hectic. Reading Homage to Catalonia was crazy, just to find out like the George Orwell surviving this like firefight in, I forgot which city it was. Maybe it was actually Catalonia, with his wife.
Catalonia is a state, or like the
Or-
equivalent of a state.
Okay, or I forgot what city it is. I think
Okay.
maybe it's Madrid
Probably like Barcelona.
or Barcelona. It's one of those two or another one. And being in that actual city and like not knowing who was your enemy and trying to prevent someone from shooting you for telling you or like asking like, oh, what side are you on? Like you never knew. Like that kind of like stuff is like
Yeah.
crazy.
So obviously a pretty important decade in European and world history, and also kind of a technological, like separate from like the Spanish politics of it, like a technological testing ground for a lot of things that ended up being prominent in World War II, like military technology.
And it was also like a weird transition from 1 to 2, because a lot of it was similar. That's similar stuff from 1, but also the stuff that was happening in 2, I guess, like trenches and whatnot in
Right.
this one.
Yeah.
Very prominent. But
That takes us to our final day for this week, December 5th, 1782. The 8th President of the United States, Martin Van Buren, is born, taking over from Andrew Jackson.
he was vice president.
Right, yeah. So, any interesting presidential...
The only president to be born where his naturalized language was not English.
Okay.
He spoke Dutch.
Okay.
And he's the actual one that put the policy of Andrew Jackson of the removal, or what was it called?
Relocation.
Relocation.
Yeah, the Trail of Tears.
Yes. And that's the only ones I can think of off the top of my
Yeah,
head.
so not necessarily something you want to be famous for.
Yeah. Oh, he created the parties, like the not party system. At the time, like there was different Democrats that would run against, like a bunch of Democrats would run against each other in the main election.
Okay.
He started it. I think he's from either New York or Massachusetts. I think it's New York, where he started it in his area where it was like the best, or they would have primaries basically. I think that's what he basically is the father of that, and basically would make sure that they would get primaried before, so they wouldn't lose votes, because he was like, this is a stupid system, and then eventually spread through the country like that.
Okay. Another birthday, December 5th, 1901. Some random guy named Walt Disney was born. Not really sure that he ever like did anything.
You know, where was he born? What specific place? Did it say?
I did not.
Okay,
write
you don't
that
look.
down.
You
I
don't
just-
have to look. I'm just
I just put it down that it was his birthday.
Okay.
Mickey Mouse's anniversary or of his creation or debut was not too long ago either. So obviously Walt Disney has had a permanent impact on culture, the global culture, really, with just how like big of a company that has become.
Yeah, and his last name is literally embedded into like so many minds.
Yeah.
Just Disney.
Yeah.
Disney this, Disney that, Disneyland, Disney movies.
Yep.
He actually did the original voice of Mickey as well. And then the guy I just interviewed this past week did a song that was based off of something he sang,
Oh, okay.
and he covered it, I guess, but like did like a modern take of it. But yeah, crazy.
Two more that we have here. December 5th, 1921, Great Britain and Ireland reach an agreement that secures Ireland's independence from the United Kingdom. So kind of a big, obviously, there still is a lot of tension at times there, and later into like the 60s, 70s, 80s, even like the 90s as well. Like really, over the last probably 50 years, there's been a fair amount of tension between those, I guess, factions.
Yeah, there's a lot of conflict. There was a mini series on it was probably not the first revolts against England that the Irish did, but it was right during World War One, I believe. Timing of it, very weird series. I forgot what it's called. Maybe it's called Revolution or something like that. It's on Netflix. It's a Netflix original. And then the recent Jackie Chan movie that came out.
It's called The Foreigner.
Yeah, that one had
actually just saw that movie like a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and it had like
Pierce Brosnan.
But it also had like weird hints or little stuff that if you understand that part of history, you would understand what was going on. It was
like Pierce Brosnan's character was kind of like towing the line, where like he worked for the British government, but like he was also kind of like the head of the a branch of the IRA.
Yeah. And then also Brexit has a lot to do with Ireland too at the moment. Just because what they've set like as possibilities of like Northern Ireland either joining or continuing to be its own.
Right. Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting. But it's also like weird when I found out like, oh, that's Northern Ireland. But yeah, it's all connected, but it's not. It's kind of it's just awkward to like find out that stuff. That's still part of.
I mean, it's well, yeah. I mean, Northern Ireland is still part of the UK, right? Yeah.
Yeah. It's part of the island. It's just the north.
Right. Yeah. And and between even those two, like there's a huge like religious divide as well.
Yeah, because Protestants, and then Roy McIlroy comes from Northern Ireland.
This is true. Our last point. I guess you always remember this because of the number. The 21st Amendment was passed, as my phone just shut down right there. December 5th, 1933 is the passing of the 21st Amendment. And you can remember that because you can be 21 when you drink, because the 21st Amendment ended Prohibition, which had been running for 12 years, maybe 13 years when Prohibition was put in. So
crazy. And it's still a lot of those kind of laws have lasted a long time. I think it was until recently, like pretty recently, South Carolina became not dry in general, like in the 70s maybe. And then there's still dry counties around the country that are still impacted because of this, the amendment that brought Prohibition. But yeah, it's crazy. I still like that story from listening to American History Tellers on the first trucks that left Budweiser.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird, but yeah, it's kind of cool.
Yeah. So that's it for this week in history. And that's it for, I think, all of our topics.
That is it. Ladies and gentlemen, that has been the Jacob Me Podcast Show. But if you haven't already, let us know in the comments down below if we missed any history, if there's any little facts that you can add to our list of stuff that we talked about. And yeah, that's it. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the College Avenue channel on YouTube. Please like the video if you listen, and thank you for doing that. Also, if you're listening on the audio formats on SoundCloud, iTunes, Podcasts, and Google Play, please consider subscribing, following us, and giving us a 5-star and the big old hearts.
Big old heart.
And that has been it, ladies and gentlemen. I have been the host, Richard Rodillo, joined by the man with the noggin, Jacob Bullard. This has been the Jacob Me Podcast Show, and we shall see you next week. Bye.
Goodbye.